Hi everybody, in this video we're going to be working on your level 2 worksheet. Starting off already with our quadrilateral to find the missing angle measure, remembering that a quadrilateral has 4 sides, and previously in class we had identified the total interior angle measures by figuring out how many triangles are within a polygon. Okay, we went ahead and figured out that if we drew a single diagonal in a quadrilateral here, we're going to create 2 triangles. Okay, and let's just go ahead and use number 2's one here. We're doing that kind of like this, and this allows us to have angles that are just parts of the corners of our quadrilateral, no extra angles in the middle, and that's why we only just drew one diagonal. Now, we know by the triangle sum theorem that triangles have a total of 180 degrees. If we have 2 triangles in our quadrilateral, that means our total degree measure is 360 degrees. Okay, so let's take a look at this number 1. I am missing angle J, but I have 107, I have 80, I have 76, and if I had added it to whatever angle J is, I'm going to get a grand total of 360 degrees. So let's go ahead and solve this. Starting off with combining my like terms, 107, 80, and 76 all do not have that variable J, so we're going to go ahead and combine those. After combining them, I have a grand total of 263. If it were added to angle J, that will equal 360 degrees. Okay, now I need to isolate my angle J by subtracting out my 263 on both sides. And once I do that, my 263's cancel on my left side, and I'm left with the fact that angle J is equal to 97 degrees as my missing angle. In this next part of our worksheet, we are looking to identify whether these angle relationships, x and y, are corresponding alternating interior, alternating exterior, and same side interior or vertical. Now here, I advise you to refer back to your theorems and postulates cheat sheet to go ahead and brush up on those different relationships. We're going to go ahead and name all of them here just so that you have that reference. So number 5, my x and my y are outside of my parallel lines and opposite sides of my transversal. So these would be alternating exteriors. Number 6, I'm seeing that my x and y, there are one inside, one outside. They're on the same side of my transversal. It almost falls into same side interior, but they're not both inside. But they are on the same corner around each of my intersections. So these would be called corresponding. Angles x and y on number 7 are inside of my parallel lines and the same side of my transversal. So these would be your same side interiors. Number 8, we're seeing x and y straight across from each other on this x intersection right here, creating that bow tie, giving us vertical angles. Okay. Number 9, again, we have same side of my transversal, but one is inside, one is outside. So can't be our same side interiors or exteriors, but they are in the same corner around my intersections. So I do have corresponding again. And lastly, number 10, I see my x and y inside of my parallel lines, but opposite sides of my transversal. So these would be your alternating interiors. As we continue on with this worksheet, we're seeing now we need to find the measure of each angle indicated. Continuing on with those knowledge of parallel lines and transversals. So remember, note back to all of our different possibilities here. If we have corresponding angles, remembering that the angle measures will be congruent. Alternating interiors and alternating exteriors also have congruent angle measures. The last one that has congruent angle measures are going to be your vertical angles. And lastly, the only one that is different is your same side interiors or exteriors that will be supplementary. And remember, what it means to be supplementary is that if you added those two angles together, they will equal 180 degrees. So when we go down to the set of problems, taking a look at all of the different types of angle relationships that we have and marking whether they are either the same value or if they're going to be same side interiors or exteriors, they're going to be supplementary. Moving down for this one, this is again similar to the previous section, except you're taking one step further and solving for x. So let's take a look at one of these. For example, number 15, the relationship for these angles, 6x plus 12 and 7x plus 4, are that they are vertical angles. Remember that I said vertical angles are congruent. So we could go ahead and say here that 6x plus 12 is equal to 7x plus 4. Now we've just got an algebra problem here. Okay, so I see 6x is on my left, 7x is on my right. And so I'm actually going to move my 6x because if I moved it the other way, note how we would get a negative x amount. So I'm left with 12 here. I've got a single x left and then plus 4. Now to isolate my x, I'm going to move my 4 by subtracting it. And I am left with 8 equals x. And that is all I needed to solve for. So hopefully you can go ahead and do that with number 6. As we move into this next section of your worksheet, it says to complete the congruent statement by naming the corresponding angle or side. So let's take a look at number 17 here. Well, actually, let's take a look at 18. I think 18 is a little trickier. So, and you can still apply the same methods that we use on 18 for 17. So number 18, it says that we have the triangle HGI congruent to the triangle HGD. And I want to know what is the piece that is corresponding to this IH part. Okay. So my suggestion here is to make sure that you are paying very close attention to your triangle congruent statement up here. And let's label them by numbering them so that we know exactly which way we need to draw the triangle. So HGI, let's number it 1, 2, and 3. Similarly, HGD, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this triangle, for my HGI, I would need to go from 1 to 2 to 3. Okay, this is the pattern of my triangle. On my HGD triangle, H is still 1, going to G as 2, and then going to D as 3, and then finally back to H. Okay, note here that my pattern or my order for IH is 3 to 1. Okay, so on my other triangle, when I'm looking for the corresponding piece, I still need to go 3 to 1. And on that second triangle, that really means I'm going DH. Okay, so you can use this numbering method for number 17 to find out which angle is angle A going to correspond to. My last section of the worksheet for this level 2 here is to mark the angles and sides of each pair of triangles to indicate that they are congruent. So we are going to mark everything based off of the triangle congruency statement. Okay, so making sure that we are going in the correct order. Let's also number these just like how we did in the previous section. So for number 19, if I have the triangle VWX, let's say 1, 2, 3, that's V, W, and X, going in this order, is congruent to WVN. So actually we have 1 here, then it goes to 2 here, and then 3 in there. Okay, so we're going to be marking congruent sides and angles. To do this, we have to make sure that we are marking the correct orders. So one thing that we can already do is, I know that VW, WV is overlapping. They're touching. They are the same exact side. So that would be one congruence. Okay. Now, going on to my 2 to 3 for VWX, this second side is going to be congruent to the other side that is 2, 3, which is this side here. And then lastly, my final congruence, 3 to 1, my X to V is my N to W. So making sure that you are matching up the correct congruences with the correct sides. Now let's also move on to angles. Okay, so angle 1 is on my first triangle is going to be up here. Okay, for my second triangle, since my triangle is starting at W, it's going to be here. Next, we move on to number 2 of my triangle. This angle right here is congruent to the number 2 angle on my triangle over there. And then finally, my third angle here, using those 3 markings. So that's the same as the other side, but knowing that it's different from the single arc mark and double arc mark. Reminder that there are answers at the end of this worksheet if you ever need to check your answers.